My name is Will Madden. I'm CEO and founder of bridge21. Our service lets individuals and small businesses send money anywhere in the world and store it in any currency, all from their computer or their mobile phone. What makes us a little bit different is we do that with Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies. So there aren't many of us out there, but that's our company. I'm not here today to talk to you about my company as much as I'd like to. I'm here to talk to you today and give you a primer on Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and also fraud. This is based on my experience coming from financial services and starting a blockchain startup over the past 3 years. So far, you might think that Bitcoin and blockchain, it's a technology for libertarians to distribute wealth to each other, right? And what's the use case for this? Why do I care? Right? It's my favorite joke. It's kind of funny because it's true right now, right? So what this is about, this slide, is from your left to your right. What's already happened and what's going to happen, or what are people betting on in venture capital that will happen in the future? And to the right, which is going to be bordering on sci-fi, but people are still putting a lot of big bets on it. What we saw immediately when Bitcoin was invented in 2009 was people were using it as a store of value, and they were using it as a payment system. And the store of value, I could store millions of dollars on a network with nobody's permission, and nobody could do a damn thing about it, which is powerful. I mean, that is really impressive. And payments, I can send those same millions of dollars to anybody in this network for free or for a few pennies. It made no difference if it was a lot or a little, it just worked. So it was a completely frictionless, at that time, payment system. So the technology was really, really amazing. And like often happens, there's this story of when the automobile was first becoming popular and police were on horseback and they chase you down on horses. The first people to start using automobiles to outrun police on horseback were, of course, criminals, right? So the same thing happened with the internet in the early chat rooms, people doing illegal things, trading unsavory pornography. The first uses for any new technology are very often, not always the case, but often criminal use, and we saw that with dark markets. We had people buying and selling drugs. They had Tor, they had the darknet, so they had a reasonably secure way to market their product. But what they didn't have was a payment system. That's what we saw. Cryptocurrency and blockchain was used as a dark market payment system. Luckily, we've already seen another wave of innovation, and we're starting to pull out of that a little bit. So we're already seeing with stored value, multi-signature and complex accounts. So it's possible for a board of directors to have 4 out of 5 votes to authorize a transaction. You can lock value for a certain number of years so your kid can get the trust fund at 18 or maybe 35, right, depending on what you want to do. That's already possible today. We've seen dark markets become peer-to-peer markets. OpenBazaar is a great example. It's software that you download where you can buy and sell directly with other people. And then cross-border payments is another application that's becoming very popular. My company, bridge21, does it. Align Commerce is another. There's a number of them out there that are using blockchain to move money. In the near future, digital assets and provenance. So this is digitization of securities, making settlement times go from T+3 to instantaneous, registering diamonds on the blockchain so you're not buying a blood diamond, property, really anything that you can imagine can be digitized as unique data and tracked. Smart contracts. There's a spectacular failure, an example earlier with a DAO, but smart contracts. This is something where you can email a blockchain token to it, it writes to a database, emails somebody else, and executes logic somewhere completely different, all based on programming. It's almost like a distributed operating system. So really neat stuff going on there. Also micropayments in the bottom. So as Moore's law brings down computing costs and storage costs and broadband gets faster and faster and faster, it's going to become economical to have tiny, tiny transactions, which gets really interesting in the next wave. Native micropayments. So micropayments will be someday built into software, and you'll be able to pay for an article by the word, or pay for time by the second, or have an app that gives you value for content that you contribute. It has the potential to change the entire ad revenue model for the internet, for example, among other things. And at the top, decentralized ID. This is much farther out. This could be decades out, but the idea of tokenizing an identity on a blockchain that everybody can reference without creating a big attack surface for identity thefts. So verify once, prove it with a public key, you know who to go to if you have a law enforcement request, but don't repeatedly ask for information over and over and over again and create a massive surface for people to sell data on the dark markets. That decentralized ID also applies to software, hardware, and even real goods in the real world that you want to sell. So you can really tag anything on these blockchains, which is a pretty cool application. Which leads to universal market, the idea that, could goods, software, services be sold on a market that just talks at a protocol level, which, really far out in, Back to the Future land, the idea is money over internet protocol. And this is a world where money is actually just part of the fabric of information. So it's frictionless, you're comfortable with it, and however you want to use it, you can. I think, change does take time. And the telephone took 75 years to get its first 50 million users. People say Angry Birds did that in 35 days, but this is not Angry Birds, right? This is money, right? It's written into regulation and law at various governments that goes back centuries. So it's not something that's going to change overnight. It's probably going to take decades. It may take as long as the telephone, and maybe even more. But just closing thoughts, this lady who is communicating with somebody on the other side of the planet, hopefully within our lifetimes, we'll see a world where she can also make payments, and we can conduct commerce frictionlessly too. So that's the promise of blockchain and where it's going.